So how do we go from this ugliness to this? This is a brand new carbon fiber spoiler from Turner Motorsport. We're going to show you how to install it, not just the ones for BMWs, but really any vehicle that uses double stick tape to adhere the spoiler to the deck lid or a chin spoiler or whatever. Let's get started. Well, we have a pretty simple one today. Even though it's a simple procedure, there is still some complexity to it. And taking your time is going to give you obviously the best fit as well as the best look on this. So we're replacing a spoiler, not going with the exact same spoiler, still going with a carbon fiber on this M5. Now, there's some clear coat that's peeling on this, and we thought about just sanding this down and re-clearing it, but that's really not going to work. It's probably not going to look the best. And if you take a look here on the corners, you can see they're lifting up quite a bit in the corners. So I think we're getting some warpage, maybe being in the sun for so many years. This is a 2016, so about 9 years old now. So we're going to go ahead and take this one off and replace it with a new one. Now, there are several ways you can do this, but basically the premise of this is bonded down or glued down or taped down with like a 3M double stick tape, probably much like this. It may be the wider stuff, but that's kind of the idea. Is most of these newer cars in the last 20 years, most of your spoilers, fascia stuff is usually bonded with just some double stick tape. So we want to cut that, but obviously we don't want a cable or a piece of wire or anything like that, because then we take the potential of gouging the paint or burning through the paint. Also, you don't want to take a scraper and just peel through it because the same thing. So we want to be safe. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this. You can take fishing string. Now, I've seen people take monofilament, which is your typical kind of plastic fishing string, and do this. I would not recommend that, because as soon as you go to cut with it, it's going to melt and break. It's going to break really easy. It doesn't matter what poundage you get. You can do it, but you just got to be careful and just kind of pull through it. The braided line will give you some more ability to be able to cut through, and it also gives it a little bit of a texture, if you will, almost like a serrated knife edge, to allow you to cut through. And I'll show you how to cut it. I'm actually going to use the string to do that. There's other ways where you can actually just take a Bondo scraper, and so you can buy these at any part store, at the body shop store, whatever. This is what you'd use to spread Bondo or something like that. And they're pretty flexible, and they also typically won't mar the paint. And a lot of times, especially on this one, when you have a lifted edge, sometimes you can just get in there and start pulling and actually cut through that tape. I really don't like to do that either, because you're really forcing that, and you really don't know any damage you've caused till after you get it up. Again, shouldn't cause any damage. And where this really comes in handy is if you start getting it cut and then you have somebody just kind of lift up on that edge, then you can keep on going. Like I'm starting to cut through the tape right now, but again, I'm not going to do the whole thing that way. We are going to use the string method, and then we're going to clean it up with some other stuff, and we'll get to that in a moment. Well, let's go ahead and cover the tools that we're using here, because they're all pretty simple. I mentioned the fishing string. Need some painter's tape or masking tape will help for sure in this to kind of get everything straight and lined up. But you don't have to have this, but definitely recommend it. Plastic razor blades will be a great one. As I mentioned, the Bondo spreader works well as well. You can even scrape with this and really not hurt the paint. But plastic razor blades are great for that. They don't cut you, but they do offer you a nice clean edge for scraping. You can probably also use a credit card. I've got a couple of door wedges or door shims that you would use when you're actually installing a door or window. You could use a wooden or a composite one, and I'll show you how we're going to use that here in a few moments as well. And finally, I have an eraser wheel. It's not something you have to have, but it will help any of that leftover double stick tape that's on the trunk or deck lid. We can actually get that off by using this eraser wheel rather than rubbing it with our thumbs or using a ton of solvent. Now, if you were going back with the identical spoiler and you knew that it was in decent shape or it hasn't shrunk, then this is where you could definitely take some masking tape and you could kind of mark out the lines for the spoiler. So you could mark your point that goes there, point on the other side. But since we're not going back with the same spoiler, I'm not worried about that right now. Now we'll mock that up here in a few moments and do the same thing. Now, there's a couple of ways you could do this with this fishing string. You could take a couple of, say, wooden dowels or plastic handles and wrap this around and be able to hold it. But I'm just going to take a couple of leather gloves and put them on and then wrap them around my fingers. I will say you don't want to wrap these around your naked fingers or hands because it will cut you. No doubt about it. Fishing string will do some pretty nasty cuts. So anyway, I'm going to get it in here and I'm going to try to just pull. But if it doesn't pull, I'm not going to saw back and forth because if I do that, again, I'm just going to burn through my string. But I'm going to hold one stationary and pull the other one. You see how that's happening? I left this one in place and pulled with this one. Now I'm going to do the opposite. Leave this one in place or stationary and pull through with this one. Now reposition. And I'm just going to try to pull because it seems pretty thin through here. And you can see I just broke my string. So even when you're being really careful, in fact, I watched a guy the other day kind of pretend like he didn't break any string, and you could tell by the cuts that he definitely broke a few times. And that will just happen. Just get another attack at it. And after a couple of cuts, if you just kind of stop and let it cool, again, it will save you from breaking it. So just being gentle and pulling with just kind of steady pressure, but I don't have to pull hard. And again, you see I broke it again. One more pull, I should be good. And there we have it. And you can see the residue left on the vehicle and obviously the residue left on the old spoiler. And we're not going to worry about the old spoiler at all. You can see there was nothing bonding this except the double stick tape. You can also see that it was stuck here, but not so much here. All this was already lifted from it warping and twisting up. It was only being bonded here on these, and even through here, that was not stuck either, seeing from the liquid. Now, one thing I will do, they should have left a gap here because there was nowhere for the water to drain out of this. That's a problem. You've got to leave somewhere for water to drain, especially some places like here in Florida, Central Florida. This place is high humidity. It's going to get water in here, whether it's condensation or rain. You got to have a place for it to drain. Now, to get the kind of the residual of the dirt off here, or most of the dirt off, I'm just going to take some glass cleaner. I like sprayway glass cleaner. You could use a detail spray or something like that. Be careful. You don't want to take the dirt and scratch the paint. But I'm just going to hit the first of it with just a paper towel. I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on here. I'm just trying to kind of scoop up the dirt, if that makes sense. And now I'll take a microfiber and clean this just a little bit better so when we're working around it, we're not creating more damage. And if your rag kind of rolls this stuff up, great. But try not to get any residual on your rag or on your microfiber. Okay, this is where we have several options here for taking off the rest of this double stick tape. Now, you could come in here and just peel with your fingernail if you wanted to. Try not to dig in, but just kind of peeling it up. So you're just leaving the sticky residue. You could roll this up. I highly recommend not doing that because what you'll do, especially if there's a lot left on here, you'll get halfway down and realize you got a huge blister on your finger or your thumb from doing that. Trust me, I've done that quite a few times. As I mentioned, you could also take a Bondo scraper. It's probably not going to work quite as well. But what will really work well is one of these plastic razor blades. If you'll kind of peel back as you're going and take your time. Again, it's not going to get everything off. But even if you're going to use an eraser wheel, the more that you can get off, the better. And these plastic razor blades, they're only a few bucks for, I think, 100 or 200 of them. So well worth keeping in the toolbox when you're working around delicate stuff. And if you want to put some glass cleaner on there or some detail spray, kind of keep it lubed up and keep it from sticking, and that will help as well. Try not to rub on any, sharp edges. That's when you have a potential to scrape some paint or even damage some paint. Now, if you do have an eraser wheel, I would recommend just kind of staying at low speed. Just make sure you're not getting it too hot, and you should be fine. You see this one, I'm not scraping off the foam, and it's just like gumming this up. So I could do it, but it's probably going to take longer, and it's going to heat this up even quicker. And that's the thing, we want to keep the heat down. So that's why it's worth just putting some lube, some detail spray, or some glass cleaner, and just hitting it with a credit card or a plastic razor blade first. But just like most things, take your time. It's not that difficult. It'll come off. And it may be in some of these spots, like this is where some of that water pooled and it ran down here. We have kind of like hard water spots here. And this is just kind of, I don't know, there's like an oxidation on there. Obviously there's a little residue there, but I'm just going to take a little polish. I'm going to start with some easy stuff. And this may take a machine to clean up, but and we can do that later too. But a little polish may help you. May help in getting things cleaned up like they should be. You can see that there is not residue from the tape. Something sitting on top of the paint. It's probably going to take a polisher to get off. We can worry about that later. And now I'm going to take just a little acetone, or you could use alcohol. And what this is doing is just making sure you got any of the sticky off, because if there's any sticky residue, that acetone or alcohol will take that off. And you can see right here, a little acetone, it'll just clean up any of that sticky residue that was left. Just light pressure, this should come right up. Now we're going to hit the entire thing with a little light polish. This is the Perfect Finish from Sonex. And this is just to ensure that we got the whole thing cleaned up. Make sure you use polish, not a wax. So this is literally doing very mild abrasive polishing or cutting, if you will. Really shouldn't cut anything you'll see, but it will help to surface be better for gripping that tape. And we're not going to be done here. We're going to hit it with some glass cleaner right before, as well as some acetone again, just to prep it for the tape. Now this is a new carbon fiber spoiler from Turner Motorsport, and they have several different varieties that you can choose from in the carbon fiber spoilers just for the M5. So I'm sure they have several variations for all the different models. So before putting any tape on here or anything, as I mentioned, it's a different format than the last one. I'm just going to kind of check of how the fitment is all the way around. Fits on there pretty nice. Just over here, yeah, that looks like it's going to fit really well. And you can see on this one, I've kind of got a dam on the back side, on the corners, that kind of keep it from moving forward. So that's where I'm going to make sure that I have those positioned right. I've also seen people take this and run strips of tape this way and just kind of fold it forward. I don't like that. I feel like there's too much slop in doing that. I'd rather carefully place it by hand and then peel it rather than using those hinges. But that can be done. So you can see my tape marks here. I don't need to mark the corners because the corners actually go right to the edge of the deck lid. So I just have these spots marked where the front edge is going to go. Okay, we're ready to put the double stick tape on. Hit it with some glass cleaner. Clean microfiber. I'm also going to take some fine sandpaper. You could take a Scotch-Brite pad, or you could take the chance of not doing it, but I'm just going to lightly touch this. You wanted to use, this is 320, but you could use 400 or anything like that. Just don't get it on the front edge, obviously, where you're going to see. And this will just give that tape some bite. That's all it's doing. And finally, I'll hit it with a little acetone on a clean cloth. Again, you could use alcohol for this. And make sure that dries, but the acetone should dissipate within a few seconds. I want it on the front edge, but I don't want it too close to that rolled front edge. And you really don't want to stretch this tape either. Little gentle pressure, keeping it taut. Don't really rub it down yet, just kind of tack it down. Because this is usually like a pressure sensitive tape, meaning that it really is not fully active until you rub it down. Now, I left it long on purpose so I could come and actually trim it where I want it. I'm still not going to rub it down yet, just going to tack it down, make sure it's stuck, and then I'll run my second layer for the backside. And depending on what spoiler you get, it's going to determine, you know, how wide your tape is, where you're running your tape, whether you need 2 rows or not. Typically you want 2 rows. Unless it's a really thin spoiler of some sort. Okay, now that I've got everything on here and it's trimmed the way I want it, I'm actually going to take a rag here and rub this down so it doesn't burn my finger. Putting some decent pressure on it, and it'll really seat that tape onto the spoiler. Make sure you don't have any wrinkles in it. I've got one right here that's really close, but I've got it good. But you don't want any wrinkles in it because you want it to sit nice and flat. You can't curve this stuff a lot or it will try to wrinkle on you. Now, as I mentioned, on the back side here, I'm going to provide an area there where actually water will drain out. We'll peel this back, take me a little piece of tape. I think you can see what I'm doing there. So I just split it in the middle first so I could get those tails there. And now I'll actually create a gap here in the middle. As I mentioned, water will find its way in there, so it needs some sort of way to get itself out. So now we've got tabs to grab and peel these so we can set it down without it being sticky all over and then peel it out. So first, a little glass cleaner just to make sure there's no dust or grime, and hit it one more time. Now you could hit it with some adhesion promoter if you wanted to. I'm going to just kiss it with a little acetone. Make sure your microfiber is clean before you start, and then make sure after wiping it down, it's clean as well. If there's any marks on there, you need to clean it some more. Make sure you're even. And got it where you want it. Just gently start pulling this back. Again, don't put a lot of pressure down on it yet to seat it down fully. Just ensure that it's not moving on you and that it's where you want it. We've got all of it peeled. Looks good. And I'm going to rub this down really good. And there we go. Finished product. Thanks to Turner Motorsport for sending this out. It turned out really nice. It's got great form to it. Really no warpage at all to this. Push down the double stick tape and it's good to go. Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button. Have a great day and keep smiling.